Do you like to grow beautiful, colorful flower beds filled with tons of ever-blooming annual flowers? Well, me too. Perennial flowers are most often preferred for stylish, luxurious gardens, for the simple reason that once you plant the perennial flowers, minimal care is required for years to come. On the contrary, annual plants need to be planted and removed every year. But without these beautiful annual flowers, any garden is incomplete. And besides, all perennials have certain blooming periods that slowly begin to replace other plants in the garden, leaving just greenery behind. Annual flowers start blooming and will continue blooming until the first frost. Creating full flower beds with annual flowers is very expensive, especially if you buy potted plants in garden centers. And this is why experienced gardeners prefer to grow their own annual plants from seeds. So I'm going to give you a list of the most easy and popular annual flowers for your flower bed that you can effectively grow from seeds. I normally buy small packages of seeds from regular big box stores or garden centers or from trusted online sellers. The first easiest and most popular ever-blooming flower is the marigold. The seeds sprout at a really high rate, usually within a week, if the temperatures reach 20 degrees Celsius. And besides, in fall or around August, you can collect your own seeds for upcoming years. There are many different varieties available on the market. For example, French marigold are known to repel harmful nematodes, or these microscopic worms, that attack the roots of garden vegetables, especially root knot and lesion nematodes. Crops that are most impacted include tomatoes, cucumbers, strawberries, beans, onions, and many more other vegetable crops. And next is the famous Calendula, also known as an edible and medicinal plant. They are very easy to propagate by seeds. With a sprouting rate of 100%, you sow the seeds directly into the flower bed. The seeds are frost resistant and they do prefer cooler temperatures for germination. If you're sowing these directly outdoors, put them in the ground for a couple of weeks before you expect the last frost. Collecting and sowing calendula seeds is also pretty easy, and it's definitely worth the effort to keep enjoying this flower season after season without having to buy any more plants. Calendula plants tolerate many different soil conditions, and they prefer full sun to partial shade. Next we have petunia, which is no wonder one of the most popular garden flowers today. It is simple to buy a couple of petunia seedlings to fill in one planter, but for mass plantings and garden edging, growing petunias from seed is definitely the way to go. You'll definitely save money because of the sheer number of plants you need, plus you'll have a much wider range of flowers to choose from. Garden centers only carry a few varieties already sprouted and growing, but you can find petunia flower seeds for different sized plants in almost every color of the rainbow. You should start petunia from seed almost 10 weeks before the last spring frost because seedlings grow very slowly in the beginning, and petunias are heat-loving plants and can be very delicate in the first few weeks of life. Zinnia is another annual flowering beauty with a wide range of varieties to choose from. You do not have to be a professional gardener to start zinnia from seeds. To get blooming in June, it is a good idea to start the seedlings inside, but zinnia seedlings are delicate and sensitive to transplantation, which is why I use my lazy method and I sow the seeds after the last frost directly on the flower bed. Even if you do it at the end of May, you will still see zinnia flowers in the beginning of July. The zinnia, it is a plant native to Mexico and it brightens up your garden from midsummer all the way to the first hard frost. Zinnia flowers are also very attractive to many pollinators. Another pollinator and bird attracting annual flower is the sunflower. I don't plant these, nor do I buy any seeds, since I have birds on a bird feeder doing the job for me. Not too many seeds from bird feeders are left uneaten, and sometimes they can get stuck in places where the birds can't reach. And then in the spring, I always have quite a few sunflower sprouts here and there. So I collect them and I transplant them into my flower garden to enjoy beautiful flowers in July and August. So not too many people know that their geranium can also be grown from seeds. Many varieties of zonal geranium are hybrids with serious gene modification and therefore cannot be propagated by seeds simply because they are sterile and don't produce any. I propagate them by cuttings, and we have a video on our channel about this effective method of geranium propagation by rooting cuttings. The link will be below. But some varieties of garden geranium can easily grow from seeds and surprisingly very fast. From the $3.65 package I have of 10 seeds, I have 8 tiny plants sprouting within 5 days. It'll probably take about 4 to 5 weeks before I see any flower development, but only 50 cents per plant is not too bad at all. And what I like about geranium is the fact that I can keep them blooming in the winter as a houseplant and propagate by cuttings for upcoming years. Another annual flowering plant, and can also be grown as a houseplant during the winter time, is Coleus. It took me more than 2 weeks after sowing Coleus seeds into the pot before I noticed tiny plants sprouting all together at once. After a while, they all started growing very fast, so I had to separate some of them to provide more room. Coleus flowers also attract many beneficial insects to my garden, including the bumblebee. It is too hard to resist the temptation to grow many varieties of them in my garden because of their beautiful, vibrant, amazing colors. Another easy, fast sprouting, and quickly growing plant is the 4 o'clock flowers, or Mirabilis. They're effective, large-looking, black-boxed seeds, often sold by online fraudsters as fake jasmine seeds. And we also have a video on our channel about this, so if you want, you can go check that out. Despite the reputation of being invasive, Mirabilis is a beautiful garden plant. It blooms in the afternoon hours, and it attracts night pollinators. Besides Mirabilis, by the end of its growing season, it can develop rhizome roots that can be stored over winter and planted again in the spring, same as dahlia or calla lilies for climate zones 3 to 5. I want to include another carefree, beautiful flower, the Nasturtium, with edible flowers and leaves, which are good for salads and or garnishes. They have large seeds that can be sown directly into the garden, about 1 inch deep, into the soil, instead of starting indoors to avoid any transplanting shock. As for the soil itself, nasturtiums are not picky, and they will thrive even in poor soil as long as they are watered regularly. If the seeds planted in the last decade of May, the flowering starts in the first decade of July. If you wish for the flowering to start sooner, you want to start the seedlings indoor 2 to 3 weeks before the last spring frost. Next we have Morning Glory. The Morning Glory vines over your pergola or an arch, and you can use it as a dense ground cover. This drought-tolerant plant grows very quickly, up to 10 feet in one season, and it can self-seed fairly easily as well. And because of this, you're going to want to choose very wisely where you plant this plant. Otherwise, you will end up with more Morning Glories than you bargained for. With an 100% sprouting rate, if you have 30 seeds in your package, you will easily grow 30 plants. So start your seeds indoors, because in the beginning, Morning Glory tends to grow slowly. So as a florist, I use a lot of Dusty Miller as greenery for bridal bouquets, boutonnieres, and just for flower arrangements. I plant a lot of those silver dust plants to make sure I have enough for the season, since buying seedlings at the garden center at the beginning of the season is always expensive. But 500 seeds for just $2.45 seems like a really good deal. Collection of its own seeds is also possible. Normally, Dusty Miller's plant begins blooming on the 2nd year of their vegetation in warmer climates, so if you can keep it in the warmth during the winter, it will produce a lot of yellow flowers. If you can manage to collect your own seeds, plant them outside in the fall because they do need a stratification period. The next one is asters. In North America, asters provide a valuable food source for butterflies, native bees, and others. There are many varieties, wild and cultivated, available for gardeners today. Aster seeds should be planted outside after the danger of the last frost has gone, and they are typically blooming at the end of summer or fall. It would be unfair to not mention the annual Phlox flowers. It is not commonly known as one of the Texas's most beautiful wildflowers. They have been prized in Europe as an exotic cultivated garden flower for nearly 150 years. Many people sometimes confuse them with a perennial species, the Phlox paniculata. So read some information about phlox varieties before you buy any seeds. It is recommended to plant seeds outdoors in April or May, since the seedlings are frost resistant, but they do not like being transplanted. Another easy to grow annual with a big garden presence is the amaranth, and it may be tricky to find in garden centers, but it can be grown from seeds. Amaranth produce rope-like deep magenta or green flower stalks. The flower stalks emerge midsummer and lengthen until the first frost. Not too many people know that a variety of edible amaranth species exist, and they're not only colorful decoration for any garden, but it's also a super herb with lots of health benefits. They have red striped leaves of edible amaranth is good for your flower bed and for your salad. You have to plant the seeds at the end of May because amaranth is very warmth-loving type of flower. And the last one is the non-stop blooming begonia, which can also be started from seeds. I'm not going to say it was easy, but growing begonias from seeds can seem like something that only commercial growers and experts can do, but let me reassure you that it's quite possible for anyone to grow from seeds. With good potting, mixed soil, sufficient lighting, and some liquid fertilizer, it is quite possible. So I tried to share with you my great experiences and biggest secrets that just with a little bit of effort and with a little help from nature and absolutely low cost, everyone, and I mean everyone, can grow a beautiful, magnificent garden full of colors and life very easily. So thank you for watching. Leave any comments or questions you have below, and don't forget to subscribe.